Hey folks, welcome to the Pop Culture SquadCast. I'm your host, Bob Harrison. In this episode, we had the opportunity to talk to comic editor and writer Michele Abounader about her latest project, When I Was Young. Michele has been the editor on several comic anthologies, including The Color of Always and Sharp Wit and the Company of Women. Both projects were crowdfunded and subsequently printed for mass distribution by A Wave Blue World. The latest project is a collection of superstar creators who are contributing deeply personal stories for this anthology of short stories of inspiration, advice, and triumph. The money raised above paying the creators for their work and printing and shipping costs will be donated to the Trevor Project, which is a charity that we support here at PCS. This interview was recorded before the project was officially funded on BackerKit.com, but it is now fully funded, and we encourage everyone to go check it out. The project ends on March 31st, so you have a couple of days to make sure you go in there and get behind it and support this project. We hope you enjoy this conversation with Michele, and make sure you like and follow us and subscribe to this channel so that you can be updated on all of our new and interesting interviews. Thanks very much. Hi, Michele. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Bob. It's good to be here.
It's great having you here. We're going to talk about When I Was Young, which is currently on Backer Kit. It's being crowdfunded right now. As we speak, you're about 66%. There's about 2 weeks to go.
Yeah, feeling good. Somehow. It's been a bit of an uphill battle so far, I feel like, even though it's only been a week. I feel like we're doing pretty great, and I'm
You
really
are.
grateful for everyone's support so far. And we're working our little butts off to get eyes on this, to show everyone what we're doing. And the reception's been really great, so really excited to keep it going.
That's great. I agree. This isn't your first rodeo with an anthology
No.
focusing on LGBTQIA plus topics and members of that community. What was your reasoning for doing this book, and how is this experience different from The Color of Always or SWAT Cow? Or
Well, I guess to start, Color of Always and SquawkHow were like open submission anthologies where the mission of those books was to get, a good group of known names together with a good group of unknown names and kind of put together a really cool collection on theme and, introduce people to some new creators while giving them some exciting things from creators that they were already familiar with. That's sort of, what Brett Fisher and myself do with Extra Pages Press, and what A Wave Blue World has enjoyed boosting from, our second printings of both of those books. And with When I Was Young, it was something that I wanted to put together to just kind of inspire people, inspire a younger generation of creators, inspire people that are just out there and need something positive to happen. And everyone in the book was someone that I invited to be a part of it. So it wasn't, didn't do open submissions. And I've kind of been working on this a bit behind the scenes probably since October. So it's something that I have been kind of pushing around my plate for a while now, and getting it to the point where it was ready to launch and crowdfund and try to drum up some support. So it's also the first project that I kind of came up with myself and started to figure out how I wanted to approach it as something that just I was going to be editing without a team of people behind me, which was a pretty daunting experience. But I want to say overall I've enjoyed it. But I mean, do we really enjoy what we do? Difficult to say.
sure.
So the approach was just different. I wanted to do something that is, to raise awareness and help people and make a donation to charity at the end of it. So that's what the point of this book is. It's things are looking good. Fingers crossed they will keep looking good and will be successful, so that I can make, an impact both with the stories that we're telling and with a bit of a donation to Trevor Project, obviously to go toward their mission of ending suicide amongst young people in the LGBTQIA plus community, which I think something we can all kind of get behind. Like
Sure.
we want the youth in our community to have a future and to feel like they matter, and have resources for family and friends of youth in the community, so that they can have more support and so that families can have more support. So
Great.
It's it's important to
Eh,
me, and yeah,
yeah, that's great. That was one of the things I wanted to touch on. Absolutely. And now let's put it this way. So this is on BackerKit
yeah,
because of the charity aspect of it. Talk about that for a
yeah.
second.
Kickstarter. I mean, people do charity things sort of on Kickstarter, but it's kind of not what the platform is for. So it's not. I, it's just not their business model. I considered trying to find kind of a loophole, and you can do whatever you want, obviously, with your profits on your projects. But I wanted to be able to say from the get go that
Mhm.
I was raising money for charity, and that's just not it's not in their business model. And
Sure.
there was some muddy language, and I didn't, I'm always trying, sometimes you try to play by the rules and it bites you in the butt, and I feel like maybe that's happening a little bit, but we're doing fine.
You are. I
And
mean, the
I
platform is valid. BackerKit's,
Yeah,
definitely a
and
valid platform. There's plenty of great projects that have gone directly there. There's plenty of people who are making comics regularly and have moved their whole platform there. So, yeah, it's a
yeah, and I
great place to
know
go.
people are familiar with it because it has been, used for people that have done Kickstarters, and
Right. For
they are
fulfillment.
only recently, yeah, for fulfillment, for surveys, for like pre-order shops.
Mhm.
Um, so people were familiar-ish with the platform, so it seemed like it could be good. It's definitely been a learning experience, I think, for both myself and for BackerKit. The people that I have talked to directly over there, the people that I'm working with directly, um, have been really kind, and they're trying to do their best to take my suggestions and feedback about how things go for crowdfunding. Since they
Sure.
are kind of new to it, they're learning how to support creators, and they don't have a lot of people that have done they don't have a ton of people that have done comics. They have some larger names that have done comics, and some like smaller projects that have done okay with comics, but
Mhm.
nothing kind of really that I've seen that is kind of in the same vein of what I'm up to. And so I think that we're kind of learning from each other. So I think it'll only be positive for both myself and for BackerKit, when we are successful at the end of this, because I think that it's always good to try to do a good thing for the community. And I think indie comics in general, it's nice to have options, right? Like, I don't want everybody thinking there's only one way to crowdfund. So it's
Yeah.
nice that BackerKit, with everything they've done with integrating shipping and how easy they make it for post campaign activities, it's nice that you can do crowdfunding there as well. So I hope that it does become a more successful place for smaller creators, because having kind of a one stop shop for stuff might just prove to be very helpful for people that don't have a ton of resources. So once again, I'm a guinea pig, but kind of
Well,
happy to be in the trenches to try to figure stuff out if it helps people.
and that's terrific. I want to talk a little bit about when I was young. I mean,
Sure.
this list of creators is incredible, and I'm going to run through them because I want people to hear the names. I mean, Sam Maggs, Heather Antos, Chris Cantwell, Kay Zama, Stephanie Williams, Ryan Oakley, Kat Kalami with Phil Falco with Alessandro Canzana, David Boer and Jack Foster, Natasha Alterici, Jazidia Jadzia Axelrod with Robin Fassel, Shadia Amin, Rye Hickman, Fellhound, Mitchiams, Tench, um, Richard Fairgray, Christy Porter and Morgan Beam, and Cody Okamoto and Michelle Abounader.
Oh yeah.
You're
And
you're writing something?
I did write something. But how about that list, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can barely believe it. I would be lucky to work with like one of those people
What
at a time.
what is what
And
is the process of getting those creators to agree to work on a project like this in such a speculative way?
well, I think a cool thing about this book is that I've got a couple people in it that are drawing that don't normally draw.
Hmm.
Most notably, the people keep mentioning, Heather Antos is drawing. Like,
Right.
that's not something that's ever happened for interior artwork before. it's kind of a running joke. Like they said it couldn't be done, but how did you convince Heather to do? And it's difficult
Oh, I,
because I kind of just asked, and I think that she thought everyone's always asking, when am I doing this? When am I doing this? And this seems like if I'm gonna do it, it should be a project like this for a good cause with
yeah.
a great group of people. So I kind of just asked. I've been joking that I was annoying, that I wore her down, that I was super persistent and irritating, but like
No, I could see
really
that.
it's just that she saw the potential in my idea for this project and thought that if she was going to take that leap and do interiors, that doing an anthology short and doing it in a project with a bunch of people that she knows and has worked with before and trusts, and
Sure.
so that's great. And also Jadzia Axelrod of DC's Galaxy the Prettiest Star, hot
Yep.
girl, I love her. She's
Yep.
also drawing her own story in this,
Oh, yes, right.
with
And Robin
colors
is
by
doing
Robin
color.
Fassel.
Hmm.
And it's such a great story. And when I asked her to be a part of this, obviously she worked with me on SWAT Cow. Like she was in Sharpwit. She wrote, and it was the short was drawn by Rye Hickman. Um,
Huge
and
fan of
when
Rye.
I'm the biggest Rye Hickman fan. I could talk forever about how much I love them. But I approached Jadzia about being a part of this, and she immediately had an idea, and we talked about it. And I said, "Do you have, any ideas for someone you'd be comfortable drawing the story?" And she said, "This is so deeply personal. I want to draw it." And I said, "Fine, sure, great, let's do it." And to me, I I I like that there are people in this that are doing something that's outside of their normal comfort zone, because it just makes the project more special, because I think it's becoming something other than just a standard anthology, because you've got people jumping outside of their usual parameters to do something cool just for
Sure.
this. And so that's exciting. In terms of like building the team, I think it was like dominoes kind of, right? Like I got like a couple people to say yes, and then from there it was like, well, I
Do
can
you like
start
you pick
asking
down, you're like, "Oh, well,
whoever.
this person said yes, this
Right.
person
Well,
said
these
yes." You
these
can
people said yes, so
yeah.
like they're going to be in this book. So I got like a couple people on board, and from there it was like, but it's such a nice concept. I mean, not I'm not even saying this like pat myself on the back. It's sort of like, I think something that we all kind of need, right? Like we all want to hear comforting stories about people that are successful and that sort of highlight, you know, not that we want our depression and trauma to be highlighted, but like to show like a light at the end of the tunnel, I think, in stories that are relatable, and a lot of it's very personal. I think it's something people like the chance to be able to say like authentically and in like an uncensored sort of like, I'm like encouraging people to tell something difficult, right? Like to go back, and if you could tell yourself as a teenager something to get you through a time that was particularly difficult, like what story or what advice would you tell that kid? Like I think that's something we all can think about. And what would I go
Sure.
back in time and help myself with to sort of like ease my own pain, ease the burden of what I've been going through. And I think particularly people in the LGBT community, I think about this a lot, because a lot of us were kind of hidden from ourselves, from the world when we were younger, and we don't there wasn't much we could do about that, right? You're kind of stuck. So I think there's always something that you can think of that you would go back in time and tell yourself while you were hidden and not feeling great about your life and who you were, that like you could say to that kid about like how things will change for you, and what the future will hold and what could be possible for you. And it might not necessarily be a story of success, but more of just like you're going to live through it. And
Right.
I guess like the sad thing is that for a lot of youth in the LGBTQIA plus community, they don't always think they are going to live through it. And that's, I think, the harshest reality, but the truth of the matter, right? Like especially like trans kids these days with the government and legislation, like it's not always given that these kids are going to make it to be adults in the queer community. And I think sometimes the basic message is just like, you're going to survive, we want you to survive, you're valuable, and your survival means something to us. And that's sort of, I guess, not that I think a comic can do that, but I mean, if it helps one person, like maybe it can. Like, you don't know what sort of impact your inspiring stories can have. So,
Sure. I mean, and that's one of the amazing things about creating art and fiction, in that even if it's, uh, realistic fiction, or something that's a real story, and putting it in an art form, it is something that will, move people in certain ways, and you never know how that's going to work. And so I want to kind of talk just a little bit more about your what's ahead of you. I do a panel at
sure.
cons where I get as many editors as possible, on a panel, and I call it juggling chainsaws. Um, I can't think I can't imagine that being more accurate than the task that you have in front of you. Like, how are you managing that? Like, a lot of this is not done. A lot of it is still coming.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
going on? How's that process? Besides the
Well,
fact that you're in the middle of trying to get it funded.
well, I, w- I think the thing that I haven't been screaming enough about in a public way is that I would be funded right now if I didn't insist on offering a page rate for this. Um,
Sure.
it's a
That and
charity
that
book,
and that
yes, but I still, it's art is hard,
people
working
need
on
to be paid.
comics is hard, and people need to be paid. And that's the reason, that's why the goal is so high, because when you look at that list of names, I'm not going to approach these people with I mean, it's a decent enough page rate, but it's not anything close to probably what they normally get on their bigger jobs. And
Sure.
I wish I could offer more, but I think they're happy to be, like, just giving them the respect that they deserve, and respecting their time and respecting their talent. And if I'm able to offer a page rate, I'm happy that I can. And that's the reason for the high goal. So, I mean, it is a little bit of extra stress because if I was just paying for production and a small donation, I would have funded already. So
Sure, but
I will happily
and I
be in the
respect that.
trenches, be happily in the trenches for more time, fighting for my life, for more backers, so that I can pay my teams and be able to make a donation and print this book. And the process on this really, like with any anthology, is you kind of figure out what the bare minimum that you need to have going into the campaign is. I don't greenlight anybody to tell them they have to start working on anything until funding is achieved.
Sure.
So I haven't, people have started working on interiors, but I have not asked for anything beyond what I already have, because I can't guarantee that I can pay people for it. So outside of the covers and the logo, Heather actually did the logo, Heather Antos, which was so cool.
Mhm.
I think the first logo she's done too. So we're all kind of just trying new things over here. But um,
I made my first logo last week.
it's great, right? It's fun to try new things, and I think that
Sure.
all creative people like the opportunity to, like, kind of give it a try with something that you haven't done before, and see if you enjoy it, see if you're good at it, see how people feel. And so I got the covers done and paid for those, and got the logo done, and got all my quotes for printing, and figured out who's going to be in it, what I was going to pay them, did my budget, figured out a plan for launching the book and budgeting and all the behind the scenes nonsense and promotion. And I'm doing everything kind of out of pocket, and by, like, I always take on too much, doing a lot and trying to ask for help where it's necessary and where I could use it. I think that's the hardest part for me, is not, you know, running myself into the ground over this, and understanding it's a team, and people in the book have been so wonderful in boosting and talking about it. So, which I love to see. I love
Yeah.
when the creators are talking about how much their stories mean to them, it gives me like more motivation to try harder and to get this going, because I know how personal a lot of these stories are and how important they are, that they're treated with respect and put in this collection for people to read. So as of right now, the chainsaws that I'm juggling are really just getting myself through the funding process, getting the book through funding with in any possible way. I'm, you know, trying to do interviews and talk to people and promote on social media, and, learning curve with backer kit. We're doing our best, and I've got some convention stuff coming up. I'll have little postcards with QR codes, or
Yeah.
whatever I can do to get out there and talk to people about the mission for this book and the point of the project. So once we get to the point where we are funded, or it's looking more like a absolute sure thing that we're going to get there, I will tell the teams, you know, we're going to fund. So please take this as the green light to get moving, and I can, pay you your page rates once I get paid out for the campaign. And hopefully we'll be putting the book together in like late April, early May is the timeline I'm on right now. And of course, there's a bunch to do in between now and then, but the setup is all there. Like, I've done a lot of work on the back end to get ready for this. So I I hope that the fundraising will go well so that the fun part can begin. And I consider the fun part being when pages start coming in. I get a good look at things, stuff gets lettered. I get to start dropping it into the layout, and like things start coming together, and I can start sort of like seeing it all as one book. And then, of course, printing it and being able to hold it is always the most exciting part, I think. And
Sure.
then
Absolutely.
shipping it and getting it to people. So there's of course there's a lot left to do, but I think like the hard part is the funding. That's
Sure.
always going to be the most stressful part. The rest
Yeah.
of it is tangible work that I can count on myself and I can count on the creators for. But you can't always count on social media and crowdfunding and promotion. Like, those are things that are not always a bet that pays off. Like, you really have to put yourself out there, and it either works or it doesn't work. So fingers crossed that what we're doing keeps working.
Right. I 100%, respect what you're doing there, and and the methodology you have behind it. Like there's a few things that I would like to get done at some point, and making sure that people get paid is like the first step in anything. Like, this is not, anybody making, even if we are doing it for charity, like that was the same concept that that I had. That's super important. I'm not going to ask anybody to do that.
Right. And I wouldn't want to. Like, if anyone says to me, don't, take my page rate and donate it, I will do it. But I'm also not asking for that, because
Oh,
uh, comic artists just don't get paid enough. And if I can help someone, then you know, that's part of my mission as a comic creator anyway. If me
right.
paying someone for 4 pages helps them pay a bill that month, I just helped make the comic community a little bit better for people in the LGBT community, which is, part of why I do what I do anyway. So I'm more than happy to pay people for their hard work. It means a lot to me to be able to do that. I feel very privileged for it. So
That's great. I agree. I want to talk a little bit about the stories that are in here. How many are
sure.
there altogether that you
Whew.
have planned?
I don't know.
Because,
I
like,
keep adding people.
okay, good.
I
I'm fine with
I
that.
think there are still two that are not public,
Okay.
that are incoming still. Um, I'm like, how many do I have? That's a really good
I
question.
don't know. There's at least like 10 or 12.
16.
16,
Right
16.
now there are 16.
So, w-
Yeah.
can you, without, spoiling, what is there one that just when it was presented to you, just hit you and said, "Hey, I can't believe we're going to do this." But you don't have to say the name. You don't have to say
I'm like,
anything.
is there a way I can say all of them? Like, I know that's kind of like a cop out, but I
No,
feel
that's
like
fine. Tell how what has been the reaction that
like
you've had when people say this is what I want to do?
well, we can start with Chris Cantwell, the story. It's like a true historical figure. The
Hmm.
story that he
Okay.
wrote for this book, and when he pitched it to me, I just thought it was so cool. It's about a girl who masquerades as a guy to serve in the Union Army. Like,
Hmm.
it gets you thinking. Like, people have been cross dressing forever. People have been going in
Sure.
drag to get the job done forever. Why are we so mad about it now, right? But like,
Right.
as someone who loves history and is a bit of a nerd, I immediately went down like a Wikipedia rabbit hole to like learn more about this person. That
Hmm.
this I got this like 4 or 5 page story in my inbox about, and I think it's always really great when you read something small and it sort of like ignites a deeper interest for this the history surrounding what happened. So I think that's a really cool story, and I'm excited to see that come to life. So I was one excited to have him in the book at all. Like, I'm very
Absolutely.
honored that he agreed for this project. I obviously have Heather Antos to thank for asking on my behalf, as they've worked together on Star Trek. And
Right.
it's funny because I was feeling like men were a little unrepresented in the lineup. So, like, he was actually like a late addition, which it seems weird to be like, I decided to squeeze Chris Cantwell in. I thought, like, that he was a late, like, afterthought, right? But I'm so honored to have him in the book, but I was feeling very, there are no men involved. I need more boys. I had David Boer early on with Jack Foster that agreed to come on. I wanted to work with David forever.
He's
I
great
just,
too.
from the first time we chatted, we met on like another podcast, and the first time we chatted, I just knew that he was one of the best people. So I'm really happy to have the opportunity to have him in this. But I was like, I need like, what boys do I not know any boys? It was like a
Right.
real come to Jesus moment. I couldn't figure out if I knew any men. It was a really good afternoon for me. I was kind of losing my mind. But I honestly, I feel like someone like Chris Cantwell, like, I I never would even think would say yes to do a book with me, I think.
I'm
So
congratulations. Enjoy it and
I'm
don't
super,
don't.
super honored.
Yeah.
Every person in this book said yes.
Yes.
It's
I
a lot
am.
of pinch me moments. Also, like, Stephanie Williams, I feel like is like, what a mind,
Oh,
honestly.
absolutely. Hmm.
I She's so smart, and I'm her story is really lovely. I'm really, really happy that she said yes to this. So happy that everyone said yes to this. I could go down the list and just like gush about every single person and how happy I am that they said yes and how great their pitch was. There's so much in this book that makes me feel just like, pinch me. I can't believe I'm working with any one of these people. I can't believe that all of these stories are going to be in the same book. It's probably going to be like my favorite book, which is saying a lot. I have a lot of
Well,
books
for now, for now,
for now,
you got a
but
lot. You got a long road ahead of you.
it definitely feels like the most important thing I've ever worked on, I think.
That's
And
fantastic.
I don't know if we'll ever have the opportunity to have all of these people in the same book again, is what I keep saying. Like, if for nothing else, like, take a look at the creator list and support this book, just because when are you going to see all of these names in the same place again when it's not like a San Diego Comic-Con lineup?
Right, right, right. Sure. Um, this is Pop Culture Squadcast, so I can't let you go without asking you a nerdy question.
Oh
So,
no, ask as many as you want.
so, well, I'm gonna ask. I'll ask two now, just because you said that.
Sure.
So, the first one is, what is the comic that you read that inspired you the most to want to make comics?
We're going to talk about Heathen again, aren't I? It's kind of
Okay.
a joke amongst me and my friends that I can't get through an interview without talking about Heathen. And of course, Natasha Altarisi, the creator of Heathen, is a friend of mine now. We've worked together a few times. And I'm sure right after this, I'm going to send her a message and say, hey, guess what? I talked about Heathen again on a podcast. Um, but reading Heathen was one of the first it was one of the first like not superhero comics that I ever kind of picked up and
Okay.
first like realized that comics were more than the big two.
Okay.
And this was like I read comics as a kid and I kind of like fell out of it a bit and then came back to it. And I have always like been a writer like through school and like I have a bachelor's in poetry and creative writing, and so I've always been a writer and never really could figure out like what greater meaning that had in the universe than like a useless bachelor's degree, right? So
Mhm.
I think reading Heathen was the first time I started seeing the potential in my own stories existing in a different way. And really got my brain sort of thinking about maybe I could do comics, maybe. And, I just continued down the road of like being a fan of comics, reading them, picking up things, checking out different stories, and eventually got into it. But really, I mean, for me, that answer is just always going to be Heathen.
That's
So,
great. That's fantastic. I love that story. I love that answer. All right. So last nerdy question, and then
sure.
I want to touch back to the campaign. So, um, without offending your seatmate, what is your favorite Pokemon?
Psyduck.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't even have to think about it. This is my emotional support Pokemon.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I'm
He
enjoying
truly
them.
truly is my favorite. Like I don't just have him here because it's funny that we both always kind of have a headache. He's the guy. He's the guy for me.
All right. So let's come back to the project. So
Hmm.
the campaign ends on March 31st.
Yes.
There's a couple weeks left to get to that. The
Mhm.
reward tiers include a digital only level, and there's three different physical covers. Is that right?
There are 3 now, yeah, I added there's cover A and cover B, and then I guess there's
Glitter
a
cover.
glitter variant.
Right.
I'm really excited to have glitter. I don't think enough people do glitter. A lot of people do foil, and
Yeah. No, I like glitter
it's
over
not
foil.
hollow foil, it is absolutely glitter. It was a late in the game edition because I was still trying to, like, budget and make it work with the printer.
Hmm.
I'm printing here in the States, and I've been working with big burly guy at the printer, and I'm Mike, come on, help me out. I need glitter. And he was, like, I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it. So like really appreciate him and helping me figure that out. So happy to add the glitter. It's gonna look really great with Paulina's cover. I'm really happy.
Is there anything else people need to know about the rewards and what the options are? There's
Like you
some
said,
prints there as
digital.
well.
Yeah, there's prints of both cover A and cover B that are going to be printed on like holographic paper, so those will be kind of sparkly too.
Hmm.
Just because I feel like everything looks a little bit better when, the sun hits it just right and it's a little sparkly. We could all use a little shimmer. So,
Sure.
really excited to hang a set of those prints in my living room, I'll tell you that. I'm really proud of this project, so I'm going to hang those proudly. There's a couple of fun stickers. There's a few I think there's a couple commission situations left. We've got Pet Portraits by Rachel Disler and Michi, has a story in the book. Is They're offering traditional art commissions, so paint, and they're
Sure.
beautiful. So like that's not typical of comics creators. Normally, everybody's doing digital commissions. So we did have a commission that was digital by Natasha, but it's been taken. There were some editing commissions. Those are gone. I might add another one.
Okay.
I might add another editing commission, from me. It just depends. I have to be realistic about the possibility of burnout. So I
Yeah.
might add another one. We'll see. Um, trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. I
I
don't
think you
think I'm
got it. I
missing
think you got
anything.
everything.
I think I
Sounds
got it
great. I
all.
mean, it's going to
And
be.
then, yeah, there's options to just add extra to donate to, which, for charity, we're doing the best we can. So
Yeah, sounds great. Um, Thank you so much for doing this. We are super excited about it, and we're going to
thank you for
tell
having me.
everybody out there to go make sure you go and back this project. It is going to be an amazing book of comic book art and storytelling, and it's for an amazing cause. It's going to be something you're going to want on your shelf. So absolutely, thank you so much, Michelle, for doing this.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
for
being
having
here.
me. I appreciate you very much, and for the opportunity to talk about the book, and thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This has been a production on the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?